Hi everybody, welcome to a new coloring countdown to Christmas video. Today I'm working with, well, a few of the markers, and I started out with Tombows to color the background. So I'm thinking about very dark night with the stars and the moon, so I did give it a whole solid black background there and had the stars colored with a very pale, almost buttery yellow. And I did choose Tombows because I can control them way better than the Copics. They really want to bleed on this paper. And I didn't want the stars to look weird, so I gave my Copics a pause and went for the Tombows. The same with giving it a base coat and coloring goes for the chimneys and the smoke that comes out of them. So I'm using cold grays for that. A very light one and a medium dark one. It's pretty much the two grays that I do have. So I'm putting them to work, and I'm having a tiny bit of a trouble here on seeing, okay, how far does the shadow go? It's like, this page here gave me a bit trouble to find out where to stop with the gray colors on the roof. But I did make it work in the end, so don't worry. I'm also giving the bag and Santa's suit a base coat of brown, respectively red. And I will shade all of the focal point later on with my colored pencils. But I'm starting actually right now on the moon. But I wanted to have a base coat in first and let the ink dry before I go on top, which just takes like 2 minutes. It doesn't take very long with the Tombows, even if they are very juicy. Don't worry. It just takes a minute or two, but I like to have that time to let the ink set pretty much. So today I'm using colored pencils again, but I'm not using polychromos. I'm using the wax-based Faber-Castell pencils that are available in grocery stores. They're not even the Albrecht Dürer that you might be familiar with. They're the super cheap version of the Faber-Castell wax-based pencils, and I do have mine now for about, oh gosh, when did I leave school? Like almost 20 years now. I had them as a teenager, just before I started my job, so it's 19 years. I didn't use them like all the time, but I used them again and again and again, and I even enlarged my collection with the colored pencils that my husband has. So it's a mixture of both, and I used those Faber-Castell's wax-based pencils for everything in the background. Now I switched just to the polychromos for coloring the ilex, because I want this one to be the popping thing in the foreground, though the background with the Santa and everything is rather colorful and bright. I want just the brilliance of the polychromos to make that ilex in the foreground really stand out. And it's gonna work, well, not perfectly, but well enough, at least for my taste. The red of the Santa coat from the Tombows is very bright still. But I'm working on still pushing him into the background by having very densely colored stuff going on in the foreground. And by stuff, I mean the ilex with the berries and stuff. And stuff. Stuff is a lovely word, Miss King. Anyway, also I use way warmer colors for the polychromo colored part. So warm reds, warm greens, almost yellow. So it's a lime green that I'm using in those leaves. And that makes them just slide into the foreground a tiny bit. And by having a very smooth texture with the paint thinner, I even drag them into the foreground a bit more. Finishing up with a tiny bit of ink and highlights for the piece, and then I'm done. I hope you enjoyed watching along. I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful, lovely, sweet day. Bye!